What is up, guys? JBanks3 here, and in this video, like I promised in my last video, I'll be going over the monk talents. But this pretty much this breakdown of monk will have to be split into two parts, because this part is going to at least take me about maybe 15 minutes. So this part I'm going to be talking about the abilities, and I'm also going to be talking about the symbols that I use for monk. And then the second part will be actually me pretty much putting all that on paper and showing you guys just throwing it all in of what I said and putting it all into combat and showing you guys the damage that you can put out when you put all this in, put that all into the pot here. So first thing we're going to talk about is pretty much the power of switching stances and why it's important. I'm not really going to get into the wind stance, because it really doesn't do anything but give you mobility, and it also gives you immunity to control effects and all that, so we're not going to really get into that. The main things that you want to do is fire stance. Switching over is, well, the good thing about switching over to fire stance and earth stance and why it's important. So we're going to start with fire stance. We're actually going to start with earth stance. Alright, so earth stance, switching into earth stance gives you a buff called Power of the Earth. Now what that does is any final attack in any combo you do, so it doesn't matter if it's your square 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 or if it's your square square triangle, it's gonna put a dot. And as you can see, switching from my stances, you see that the buffs do come up for 10 seconds. But at the end of any combo, it's gonna put a dot on your target. Now, if you go to your fire stance, which is super crazy, your Dragon Rage, alright? Your Dragon Rage, pretty much earth attacks that inflict damage over time. Inflicting the damage, they would do, it pretty much removes all effects that do damage over time from your earth stance. And it pretty much just does all of it in one move, and it also does 70% additional damage of what it would have done over time. So what that means is usually when you're starting combat against a boss, you would want to go wind stance, and then earth stance, and then fire stance, so you can get all that you pretty much need out of those stances, because your Dragon Rage is going to take the dot damage that you do from off of the target and do that additional 70% damage. Now the other thing that makes this really crazy is what you get from switching over to fire stance. Now, switching over to fire stance gives you Rage of Fire. Now what that does is any move that you do at the end of that combo, it's going to be increased by 60% damage. Now, what that means is not only are you going to be taking that dot damage off from the earth stance, but you're also going to be doing that 70% additional damage plus the 60% damage on top just by switching to fire stance and getting that Rage of Fire buff. That is a lot of additional damage, and we haven't even scraped the surface of what the monk has to offer. Now, next thing, since we've talked about what the switching stances has to offer, we're going to also talk about what the abilities in those stances have to offer. So first, we're going to start with earth stance, okay? Now, what earth stance has is Lotus Strike. Now, Lotus Strike does 50% more damage to targets that are more than 30% health. Meaning this is going to be your main combo in earth stances that you're going to be hitting for the majority of the fight. Alright? Now, the next one is Falling Mountain. Now, Falling Mountain does an additional 40% extra damage to targets that are below 30% health. We'll also get into why this is crazy when I talk about some mechanics later on. Now, we pretty much got into what Dragon Rage does already, which is pretty much wiping all of your dots from your earth stance off that you get from your Power of Earth. Now we're going to talk about what Spiral Attack does. Now, this is pretty crazy because it also stacks with your rage of your rage of fire. Your spiral attack inflicts 65% more damage to enemies that have over 50% health. So this is also going to be the main attack that you're going to be using in your fire stance. Meaning, you also get the 65% extra damage that you get from using this ability, but you also get, just from switching over into fire stance, like I said earlier, you get 60% extra damage added on to that just by having your rage of fire added. So in total, you're increasing the damage of spiral attack by over 100 damage, 125% damage, I believe. 65, was it 50? So 115 extra damage, actually, which is a lot of extra damage. Now, we're also going to talk about, since we got that out of the way, we're also going to be talking about your talents, which changes the ball game about everything. Before we do that, I'll pretty much try to, since this is a lot of things, I'll try to explain everything that I just said. 1. What you want to start with usually when fighting a boss is wind stance. Okay? So you're going to go from wind stance to earth stance to fire stance. So your fire stance can take off the dot that your earth stance puts on, and do that 70% extra damage, also adding the 50% extra damage it gets just from rage of fire. That's a lot of fucking damage. Also, this does 65% damage to enemies that are above 50%, and your stone palm, I don't think it's stone palm, it's lotus strike, does 50% extra damage to opponents that are above 30% health. Other one is 50%. Now we're going to talk about, and your triple squares do 40% more damage to enemies that are below 30% health. So, now we're going to talk about Cyclone. A lot of people get confused about Cyclone and Vortex, and they think that they're the same thing and they mix them up, but they really aren't. Now what Cyclone is that when every time you kill an opponent, you get a stack of Cyclone. As you can see on my screen, I have 4 stacks of Cyclone. Meaning, next time I go into combat, which I'll do that now, I have 5 stacks of Vortex because I have 5 stacks of Cyclone. So next time I'll go in combat, I'll have 6 stacks of Vortex because I have 6 stacks of Cyclone. Now, it does nothing else but that. Only when you have stacks of Cyclone, the next time you go into combat, it'll give you those stacks as Vortex stacks. Now, what does Vortex do? We'll explain that. What Vortex does is, for every stack of Vortex that you get a 20% extra damage on your triple square moves. So all of them, your Falling Mountain, your Dragon Rage, and your Enrage Harpy. Your Falling Mountain being your Earth Stance triple square, your Dragon Rage being your Fire Stance triple square, your Enrage Harpy being your Wind Stance triple square. All of those are increased by 20% for each stack. Also, your Stone Palm, which is your circle in your Earth Stance, is increased by 10% for each stack. Meaning, the triple squares with 14 stacks are increased by 280% damage. Also realizing that when you do your Dragon Rage, it's still going to be taking those buffs from that dot off, doing 70% extra damage, and it's also still going to be doing that extra damage from your Rage of Fire, 60% extra damage just from switching over. That's a lot of added damage. Over 300% extra damage right there. Just added. Okay? So, pretty much, you're probably asking, well, what makes Cyclone so important? And that's going to be why we're going to talk about the strong will talent. Strong will talent has to do with your circle in your wind stance, which is wind catcher. Now, when you press circle in your wind stance, which is wind catcher, it activates 14 stacks of vortex automatically, meaning you get that 280% extra damage for all your triple squares, and you get that 10% damage for your 14%, 10% damage 14 times for your stone palm automatically. Now, what this means is if you have 14 stacks of Cyclone in combat and you start a boss fight or anything else, you're doing that additional damage that you get from your vortex strikes without even starting your wind catcher and getting the free 14 whips. Meaning, you can run around, and as long as you can keep that Cyclone up, you're doing that damage. So as long as you keep killing things, you're running up to them, and you're keeping it up like so, boom. You know, you're keeping it up, you know, you're getting your kills, boo out the bam, you know, boom, you get that fucking kill there, bam, you got the 3 stacks, whatever. As long as you keep that up, you're gonna keep your 280% extra damage on your triple squares. Also, that we haven't even activated our circle yet, meaning you can go into a boss fight or any other fight, and you can do your triple squares, which is what your rotation is going to be. Let's say you have your 3 stacks of your 14 stacks of vortex, and you're like, well, what's the damage like? Which I will be showing you in the next video. But your rotation is going to be wind stance, triple square, earth stance, triple square. Get that damage from that stone palm. Hit circle on your triple square there. After this triple square, then you're gonna go triple square with your fire stance to take that dot off that your earth stance did. Now, also, what needs to be said is that after you finish that, you're going to automatically switch over to your fire stance. You're going to hit your triangle, which does passive AoE fire damage, and you're going to hit your circle. You're going to do your 1, 2, boom. Alright? Or you can switch over to your earth stance. Either one, and you can do your 1, 2, boom, if the target is above the threshold that's needed for your square triangle, your square triangle, switch over to your fire stance, and then you hit that to get the damage from it, and then you switch over to wind stance, and you pop your wind catcher. So basically what I'm saying is you can do 2 wind catcher triple square combos back to back and get all that additional damage that you get twice in a row, making, in my opinion, the biggest opener of damage you can do to any boss on this game with any class. I don't think any class can open up out of gate with that much damage other than the monk, and I will show you this in another video.